A lot of people say Kansas is flat. In fact, where I live, it is super flat. You can see for miles. But this is also Kansas. They also say we have no trees. I'm Bonita and I am early retired. I'm not old enough yet for Social Security. I'm living on a low income and I am living off of savings. I live in Kansas on a farm and I have a donkey. This is Brownie. I have frugal videos all year round, and I hope that you will join me this year as we share ways to save money and live our dreams. Hello, everyone. I'm Bonita from Pennies to Dollars, and welcome to the channel. Many of you know that I grew up with Depression era parents, and even though they are gone, there are times that I hear things that they said that I paid no attention to when I was younger. And now that I'm older, I reflect on those. And they were teaching me to live a simple life and to enjoy everything around me and not necessarily spend money doing it. So, today we are going to talk about one of those things that my dad used to always say to me, and I just heard him say it, and it just went in one ear and out the other. And that was, look out the window. I hope you'll stick around. So my dad was a small farmer, only of 160 acres, which is really small for farming. But we took two vacations every summer in between alfalfa season and wheat season, and it was only for about 5 days. And that's how I traveled to so many states. I've been to all 50, and I still had one to visit when I became an adult, and we visited that in like 2005. So as we would travel, we wouldn't stop anywhere. And I was always begging dad, please stop. Can't we just stop? Can we get out? Can we do something? And he would say, just look out the window. Look at the beautiful countryside. Well, I didn't want to look out the window. I was a little kid and I wanted to get outside. I wanted to run and play and do things. But he was trying to teach me to appreciate the things around me. And then as I got older and I had my kids and we went on vacation, I would say a lot to them. Look outside the window. Look at the beautiful countryside. Look at the rocks. Look at the mountains. Look at all of that. And I realize now they may not have appreciated it then either, but I have a whole slew of kids. I've raised six, and they all love to travel now. So that beauty and appreciation of the countryside has been passed on to my children. One time we visited the Ride the Ducks in Branson, and because of a tragic event, they are no longer open. But I remember sitting on that little boat, and the guy that was entertaining us and showing us around, he said, everyone from Kansas, look to your left, and then look to your right. Those are trees. And I remember then thinking, why is he making fun of us? We have trees, but apparently we didn't have as many trees as Missouri. And this happens a lot when we're living a simple life or a frugal life. We look to the left, we look to the right, and we see what everyone else has. And we see that everyone has more than we do. And sometimes we start feeling less than. I just did a video with you guys about going to Florida and how seasick my husband got on one of the ships that we took a sightseeing trip on, and how everybody on that boat was also sick. But what I didn't tell you is I had a couple from Maine that sat down beside me, and they had a little girl that also was not feeling good. And as we sat there visiting, I said, "Where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Maine." And they said, "Where are you from?" I found myself hesitating because in my lifetime, with all of my travel, every time I tell someone that I'm from Kansas, they kind of look at you like, who would want to live there? And so I always hesitate because it's not a state that anyone usually wants to go to. It's called a flyover state. It's called a drive-through state, one that you just keep going because there's nothing to see or do. So when I hesitated and I said, I'm from Kansas, his wife said, I've always wanted to go there. And that's when it struck me. I was doing that. I was looking from the left to the right, and I wasn't looking out the window. I wasn't appreciating everything that I had. I was kind of embarrassed of where I lived when someone asked me where I lived. And that was not doing what my dad had taught me to do, to enjoy and appreciate everything around me. I then went on to tell him how we have state taxes and they're kind of high, but we have low property taxes, which is also a good thing and it makes up for a lot of it. And that's when he said that Maine's property taxes were also high and that there's always a trade off somewhere. And that made me realize that he was exactly right, that my dad knew that there are times we compare ourselves to others, but instead of comparing ourselves, we just needed to look around and appreciate everything around us, the beauty all around us, and all of the things that we did have. There's a joke about Kansas about how windy it is. They say Oklahoma sucks and Nebraska blows, and that's why we are so windy. But when I was in Texas this winter, it was windy. When we were in Florida, it was windy. And when I was in Texas and I was in Florida and it was windy, it was also windy in Canada. So sometimes we look at where we're at and we think it's not as good as somewhere else, or we don't have stuff that's as good as someone else. But a lot of it is really similar. And sometimes we're too hard on ourselves because we compare like our 2012 car to the neighbors that have a newer model, and we feel ashamed or embarrassed, but we shouldn't because we worked hard for that and it is paid for, or we're making payments on it. And we need to appreciate the things that we have and stop comparing ourselves to others. And if you're like me, sometimes you're doing that without even realizing it because I found myself embarrassed to tell them where I lived. Most of us have more similarities than differences, but for some reason, we focus on the differences. So, as that saying goes, we can live like everything's a blessing, or we can live like nothing is a blessing. And I know which one I'm going to choose. So, our neighbors in Missouri have more trees than we do. It's okay. I have enough. I remember asking my father in law when we were in Texas the first year, where would you like to live? Would you rather live in Texas or would you rather live in Kansas? And he said, I can live anywhere. That said so much to me. It said, I can be satisfied anywhere I'm at. I can learn to love and make friends anywhere I live. I don't have to live somewhere to make myself happier because the happiness comes from within. And just those little sayings of wisdom from our elders, if we stop and think about them, they have so much meaning. The whole difference is in our perspective of what we have, what we don't have, and what it takes to make us happy. Learning to be happy within ourselves is the secret that both of my fathers were talking about. There's another old saying that says, wherever you go, there you are. And to me, that means that you take your positivity or your negativity with you. A lot of people talk about starting a new life somewhere else because they think they will be happier. But how you feel within goes with you wherever you are. So you take that with you. And that's what my father in law was trying to say. It's not the location, it's not what you have or what you don't have. It is learning to look out that window and appreciate and enjoy everything around you and the beauty that there is. And I just thought about this so long and hard on my trip to North Carolina this week as I was passing by all of these areas, the devastation that is still being cleaned up around Asheville and Hendersonville and Chimney Rock. I looked out my window and I thought, I need to be more thankful about what I have. And looking out that window reminds me of that. So, Dad, thank you for telling me to look out the window. I'm sorry I didn't realize it until I was 59 years old that looking out the window is the most important part of appreciating wherever you are.